There's a quote I love from Henry David Thoreau that goes, "Every generation laughs at the old fashions, but follows religiously the new." And what's ironic about this quote is that it was written over 150 years ago, and yet his words ring just as true now as they did back then. It seems like not that long ago, young people everywhere were rolling their eyes at their grandparents' old fashioned habits. But between the rising debt and prices climbing higher and higher each day, the knowledge and skills that got older generations through the Great Depression seem to be making a comeback. So, in today's video, I'm sharing 21 old fashioned habits that can save you hundreds or even thousands of dollars, so that if history really does repeat itself again, you'll be ready and well prepared. Starting with habit number 1 on this list, which is baking your own bread from scratch. For convenience sake, we used to buy fresh bread from the store, but then a while back my husband noticed the cost of bread had risen from $4.50 to $5 per loaf, which might not seem like much until you do the math and realize that's an increase of over 11% seemingly overnight. Not only is baking my own bread comforting, but it's also extremely cost effective, as baking your own bread is generally cheaper than buying it, with an average savings per loaf from 40 cents to $1.50, depending on the type of bread that you're making and the ingredients that you're using to make it. I know that the idea of baking your own bread might sound intimidating, but it's actually a lot easier than I thought it would be, since I had all of the ingredients that I needed in my pantry already. And speaking of which, that also happens to be habit number 2 on this list, which is stockpiling your pantry with staples that are cheap, versatile, and yummy. All I need to bake my own bread are ingredients like flour, yeast, salt, and a little bit of warm water. And I also use a lot of those same ingredients to make everything from pancakes and waffles to homemade pizza dough, biscuits, and muffins. So I always make sure to keep my pantry well stocked with cheap and versatile pantry staples like the ones I just mentioned, as well as other things like rice, pastas, oats, and seasonal produce. In fact, just the other day, I found a lovely butternut squash on sale for super cheap, and I used that to make my kids' favorite fall muffin recipe, along with ingredients like my homemade pumpkin spice mix and some rolled oats that I had on hand. And I'm telling you, my kids go nuts for this stuff. And I can also use most of those same ingredients when I want to make a healthy pumpkin spice baked oatmeal that feeds our family breakfast for 2 days. And speaking of feeding my family, another old-fashioned habit I use to make snacks for them is making homemade popcorn on the stovetop instead of using microwave bags. I've been making homemade popcorn for years, and not only can you save a couple of dollars per serving, you also have better control over the ingredients that go into the popcorn, so you can make it as healthy or as indulgent as you like. When it comes to flavor, I've used everything from plain butter and salt, to spice blends that I purchased at the store, to homemade mixes I made myself, such as using brown sugar to make my own kettle corn. And by the way, while you're watching this video, if there are any recipes that catch your eye, be sure and leave me a comment down below and tell me what they are, and I'll try to share some of the most popular ones with you in a future video or blog post. Besides snacks and pantry staples, habit number 4 is super helpful for extending the lifespan of perishable items in your fridge and freezer. Perishable items are foods that can spoil quickly, such as fresh meats and dairy products, as well as fruits, veggies, and herbs. And over the years, I've picked up quite a few habits and hacks for making these items last longer. For example, when I was roasting the butternut squash for that muffin recipe I mentioned earlier, even though I made a double batch of muffins, I still had half the squash left over. So I decided to freeze the leftover squash puree so that I could make another double batch of muffins again soon. And that can stay safe in the freezer for up to 6 months. And I also buy things like bagels, meat, and dairy products such as shredded cheese when they're on sale, and then I'll freeze those until I'm ready to use them. Just the other day, in fact, I found some organic ground chicken marked down from $8.49 to $3.49 on clearance. So you better believe I scoop that up to use when I make my famous meatball recipe. For number 5 on this list, I'd like to give a shout out to this tip I picked up from one of my frugal friends ages ago, which is that you can snip the ends off of fresh herbs such as cilantro and parsley and put them into a jar of water. And then what you do is you use a plastic bag to loosely cover the jar and put a rubber band around it. And what that does is it creates the perfect environment for making those herbs last longer. Just remember to change the water if it starts to look cloudy, and that can extend the lifespan of your fresh herbs up to 3 weeks or even a month in your refrigerator. Old-fashioned habit number 6 is something my grandpa taught me, which is that foraging for or growing your own food can be a fun way to save lots of money. I have the absolute fondest memories of my grandpa and his green thumb, and how we used to go out in his backyard to gather apples from the trees and zucchinis and tomatoes from his garden. And I also loved the times that he would take me in his old red Ford pickup truck out to forage for things like blackberries and mushrooms in the forests and fields that his farmer friends owned. When we got back, my grandma would roll up her sleeves and make those blackberries into blackberry cobbler and fry the morel mushrooms that we found into mushroom sandwiches for my grandpa. Now, I never liked the taste of mushrooms much, but I sure did have fun hunting for them, which is one of the reasons I was so glad that my in-laws showed us where we could hunt for wild onions in the forests of Germany, which we would then take home afterwards to wash and turn into dumplings and steam buns that would last our family for days, and that I honestly found a lot more delicious than fried mushroom sandwiches. Speaking of my grandpa, another frugal lesson he taught me was how to turn trash into cash. We used to go for walks around his neighborhood and look for soda cans, which we would then put in a trash bag to take home, and then we would stomp them flat and trade them in for money. Back then, my grandpa probably earned a few cents for each pound of cans for his efforts, which is something he didn't really mind because he was already retired. But since I'm still working towards my goal of early retirement for myself and my husband, nowadays when I declutter my home, I enjoy selling things here and there to make extra money. And I've made tens of thousands of dollars over the years selling that unwanted clutter for cash on sites like eBay and Facebook Marketplace. Speaking of decluttering, the 8th habit is to use hand-me-downs as much as possible. Because we've been doing this since my kids were born, they've grown up loving and appreciating the hand-me-downs they're given. Whenever Big Brother outgrows his clothes, he passes them down to his little brother, who is always so excited to receive them. And in fact, Diti sometimes has a hard time being patient when waiting for Big Brother's stuff, like the winter coat he's been coveting for the past 2 years. As for my oldest son, he's now big enough that he can wear hand-me-downs from my husband, and both he and I have several items of clothing that my husband decluttered and gave to us. Next up, we have DIYing your home repairs. Back in the old days, if something around your home broke, most people knew how to fix that stuff themselves. But somehow, a lot of that knowledge and those skills didn't get passed on to the younger generations. But the good news is that you can learn how to do almost anything cheap or free online nowadays. For example, after we recently noticed some rotten wood around our home and a few spots that needed attention on our roof, My husband decided the quotes we got from the repairman were too expensive, so he decided to DIY them himself. And after watching a few YouTube videos, not only was he able to fix everything on his own, but he saved us around $10,000 by doing so. Another old fashioned habit that saved us a lot of money over the years has been reducing the cost of our haircuts and care. We've been cutting both our boys' hair at home for years, and between the two of them, we're probably saving around $320 a year on that. And I went from always coloring my hair for fun and getting frequent haircuts to only getting my hair cut once a year and sticking to my natural hair color, which probably saves us around $1,000 a year with the cost of women's haircuts and dye jobs. Number 12. Following the use it up rule. There's a motto from the 1930s and 40s that's become quite popular in the frugal living and minimalism communities, which goes, use it up, wear it out, make it do, or do without. Now, although the exact origin of this saying is debated, the phrase is commonly attributed to Calvin Coolidge and was popularized during the World Wars and Great Depression era as a way to encourage frugality and resourcefulness. Some of the small ways I use this rule around my home is by making sure to squeeze every last drop of toothpaste out of the tube before I throw it away, and by adding water to soaps, shampoos, and conditioner to get everything out of the bottles before they get tossed. Habit 13 is all about mastering the long-lost art of waiting, because being able to delay gratification is honestly one of the biggest superpowers you can have when it comes to saving money. Our grandparents didn't buy things the second they wanted them. They saved, they waited, and they thought it through. And that waiting gave them clarity. It gave them time to decide whether they really needed something or whether it was just a passing impulse. Slowing down, even if it means only waiting 24 hours at first if you're not used to this habit, can save you hundreds or even thousands of dollars over time. Because when you're not ruled by your impulses, you're in control of your choices and your money. And that also goes hand in hand with habit number 14 on this list, which is the habit of avoiding debt and only buying things when you can pay for them with cash. Using cash makes spending feel more real because unlike slapping your purchase on a credit card, you can see it, touch it, and think twice before letting it go. Studies have found that people spend up to 20% less with cash because it creates a sense of immediate awareness. So if you tend to get yourself into trouble with credit cards or have gotten caught up in a cycle of debt, consider using the cash envelope method. It might be old-fashioned, but it works. Next up, can we talk about how haggling and bartering used to be normal, and I don't know when or why they suddenly became so scary to people? Maybe it's partially because in the old days, there was a greater sense of community, where people felt more connected when they negotiated and traded goods, services, and favors versus how lonely and isolated we've become nowadays. In my experience, if you're willing to go out on a limb and ask, 80% of the time people are more than willing to haggle or barter. And heck, I've even been able to negotiate discounts on things like clothes and shoes at big box stores like Dick's and DSW, just because I plucked up the courage to go and ask someone. And I've also given discounts and deals when asked for them as a seller myself. So just putting it out there that I'd like to normalize and bring back these old-fashioned habits. Habit 16 is writing down your daily spending. Before budgeting apps and spreadsheets, people used to use pen and paper to budget and track their spending. And honestly, I've always liked that method better. Physically, writing down what you spend helps build more awareness about your money habits in a way that digital tools and automations just can't. My husband and I actually used that exact method to eliminate over $250,000 worth of debt and save up to buy a house. No fancy apps, no complicated systems, just good old-fashioned pen and paper. And this year alone, I've been able to put an extra $10,000 in a high yield savings account simply by journaling about my spending habits. And right now, the budgeting principles that I use are on sale, and I've linked them down in the description box below in case you're interested in checking them out. But don't worry, because you can also create your own system with some papers, pens, and notebooks that you have lying around, because the most important thing is getting into the habit of sitting down and just doing the darn thing. Next up, we have the habit of shopping at secondhand and thrift stores. Secondhand stores are gold mines for finding clothes, furniture, home decor, and more at affordable prices, and sometimes with a lot more character than the things that you might buy brand new. And if you can't find what you're looking for in a physical store, don't forget you can always check on online apps like Poshmark, eBay, and Facebook Marketplace. Next up is the habit of hanging your clothes and towels out to air dry. And while that might sound a bit old school, it really is a great way to save on your electric bill and keep your clothes from wearing out as fast as they would if you put them in the air dryer. Plus, there's just something about the smell of freshly washed laundry hanging up to dry that makes a home feel so clean and refreshing. And speaking of energy costs, turning down the heat or AC is another simple way to save a ton of money. My husband and I recently got a letter that informed us energy costs in our area would be going up as much as 15%. So this winter, we're falling back on our tried and true habit of putting on more clothes instead of increasing the temperature. Also, both my kids and I have wearable blankets, and I also have a set of faux fur lined pants and a hoodie that I can put on when I'm feeling extra cold, because I'm definitely the Goldilocks of the family. I once read that for every 1 degree you lower the temperature in your home, you can save around 1% on your heating costs, so it's up to you to find the right balance between comfort and cost. And this rule applies for the heat in winter as well as the air conditioning in summer. I have to say, this next tip is probably one of my favorite habits on this list, which is getting stuff for free at the library. And I would estimate this one habit alone has probably saved us at least $800 this year with all of the books, movies, and hobby kits that we've borrowed. Just by canceling our Netflix subscription and getting free entertainment from the library, we've been able to save $160 right there. And I wish that more people realized that libraries aren't just for books anymore, because along with the standard books, cookbooks, and audiobooks, our library also allows us to rent items such as a hobby kit to see if you might enjoy playing the ukulele, bird watching kits with guides to local birds that you might see, and a pair of binoculars to spot them with. And they even have tech items such as this ring light kit for wannabe influencers out there who might be on a tight budget. Our library also has a 3D printer, and you can even get premium memberships like the New York Times for free when you sign up with your library card. In my opinion, enjoying things without owning them is the ultimate frugal living hack. And honestly, there's just something so wholesome about going to the library that's made it one of my favorite activities for us to do as a family. And let's not forget about the habit of repurposing stuff around your home. Before Pinterest made it trendy, repurposing and upcycling were just a normal part of life. Old jars became vases or storage containers, and fabric scraps were sewn into quilts or transformed into wrapping paper. Instead of always rushing out to buy new things, our grandparents made sure to shop their home first to make best use of what they already had. But speaking as a former hoarder, I have witnessed frugality morph into an excuse to hoard far too often in my life. So I have found the trick is to set boundaries for myself and for the things that I own. And when my spaces are full or I can't find a use for an item, then I need to be okay with letting it go. Because the truth is that repurposing only works when the things that we own actually serve a purpose. If you start saving every box, every jar, and every ribbon just in case, your home will fill up faster than you think. Whenever I find myself struggling to get rid of something, I give myself a gentle reminder that sometimes the best way to repurpose an item is by letting it go and allowing it to move on to a new home where it's actually needed. And if you'd like to hear more tips and ideas about how to save money and keep your home clutter free, be sure and go check out one of these videos that YouTube thinks that you'll like, or I'll see you next week. Until then, take care. Bye bye.